Griff, I know you watched the speech, but after the fact, because you were busy doing something else.
I didn't see the president speak because I was at a Bernie Sanders rally.
Now,
yesterday at the same time, Senator Bernie Sanders, the same place he started a campaign that became a socialist movement in 2016, he was back there. Here's a little bit of what he had to say.
I want to thank all of you for being part of a campaign which is not only going to win the Democratic nomination, going to defeat Donald Trump, who is the most dangerous president in modern American history. We are going to transform this country. Principles of our government will not be greed, hatred, and lies. Campaign is going to end all of that.
Now, the key word there, transformation, that's what he's talking about. There was some 10,000 or so folks out there. It was cold, but they're true believers, and a little later I'll play for you when I talk to some of the supporters about how they identify with socialism.
But you were there. I wasn't at either of these speeches, but I look at that speech and I look at the speech at CPAC. One looks fun and one looks glum. I'm sorry. That looks so boring and negative. And by the way, how can he call the president dangerous? I mean, what's dangerous is, you know, introducing socialism to this country. And by the way, the code words in there, I need to see if I can find it here. He says, you know...
Use transform.
Yeah, he says we need to transform America. Yeah. There were all these code words which were for socialism.
Absolutely. Listen, this is a guy who, he did it in Brooklyn because he was born in Brooklyn. You hear the accent. He was born in Brooklyn, but he honeymooned in the Soviet Union. Okay, so
we all do that, Pete. Come on.
Do we all do that?
Everyone. Bahamas, and Moscow.
Your point is, Barack Obama famously said he wants to fundamentally transform America.
He did say
use the word transform. Yeah. It's not about restoring. It's not about fulfilling the promise of our founders. It's not improving the promise of our founders. It's transforming. It's going to some other system, and that's why the president is on such high ground when he says, I'm going to defend this America against those who hate the idea of America. That's a sound
And
spot.
I like that he's so stark. I mean, we used to kind of pussyfoot around a little bit. You know, they never really said socialism. We talked about more freedom. Now it's capitalism versus socialism. Let's talk about it. By the way, I found the code words. The underlying principles of our government will not be greed, hatred, and lies. If you know anything about socialism, those are the code words.
Yeah,
those are
how they play the game.
Well,
Griff, but you talked to some folks?
I talked to the crowd. We'll get to it in the next half hour. And, you know, one of the really significant things here to remember is that when Sanders was saying it, as you point out in 2016, it was like, oh, my gosh, I can't believe he's saying that. Now he's the perceived front runner, at least until Joe Biden gets into this race. He is the perceived front runner, and so many of the other candidates are saying what he's saying. And so the dueling speeches really are quite significant.
Yeah. He's definitely the thought leader.
So you're going to hear from Bernie supporters at 6:30 on our program. Do not miss that.